Today we're going to be talking about animal breeding, and specifically we're going to be talking about the mounts that you can ride and the cubs. And I know they're not all called cubs, but just for a blank, it's essentially the babies that you get that you can raise into a tamed animal, and then you can put a saddle on it to then be able to ride it here in Albion Online. So what I'm going to do in this video is we're going to talk about the different babies that are dropped in the open world, as well as the ones that you can buy, and we're going to talk about the drop rates that are in the open world so that you can have a better idea when you go out into the open world and farm for these baby drops, that you will have a better chance to get the mounts that you want. So to start off, we're going to open the first chest, and here I kind of organized in a way that I hope is a little bit more user-friendly for you guys to see. These are going to be placed in pastures, and if you guys are wondering if it gets placed in a kennel or a pasture, it's going to say it right up here. So this one says placed in pasture, and then when we go down to like the piglet, direboar piglet, is going to be placed in a kennel. And if you guys are wondering how to get started with breeding animals here in Albion Online, I do have a separate video on the YouTube channel that does talk about kennels and pastures. I'll put the link in the description. You guys can check that out. I walk you through everything you need to do to get started with breeding animals here in Albion Online. This video is specifically just to show drop rates and the different types of babies that can make different types of mounts that you can use here in the open world, or different types of content that you're doing. So for the horse and the calves, they're going to be placed in pastures, and these ones, they can't actually be farmed, so you have to buy these either from the market in game or the farming merchant. So just real quick, I'm going to show you guys the farming merchant over here. Sometimes it's good to compare his price to the market in the city that you're in. So if you go to him, he will sell different types of mounts for you. So if we go to here, he sells the calves, the ox calves. So this is something that you need to compare to the market in your city. Sometimes these prices are better, and most of the time they're going to be worse, but this is one of the places that people will get them. So another thing too is when you do breed these, is they have a chance to drop an offspring when they're nurtured by using your focus. You get 10,000 focus a day if you have premium. If you don't have premium, you're not going to get any focus, so mount breeding is going to be less profitable, if not profitable at all, because you do need that focus to help get the offsprings. That's where a lot of the profit comes from. So when you do get offsprings, you get another baby, and then you can put that down and you can keep breeding them, or you can sell the calf right out. If we scroll down here, we have the fawns and we have the moose calf. These are the mounts that they turn into. These ones are placed in a pasture as well. Then we have the direboar piglet and the swamp dragon pup. These are tier 7. All of these ones down here, you can get in open world, the babies. You can get these dropped in open world. You can get a fawn from the stags in open world. If you see any moose in a tier 6 zone or up in the open world, you can get a moose calf. There's a chance for it to drop, and I'll be showing the drop percentages here soon, later in the video. Direboar piglet and the swamp dragon pup, these are the mounts that they turn into. And we have the swift claw cub, which can be dropped from swift claws tier 5 and up. If you kill any tier 4 swift claws in open world, they will not drop a swift claw cub. Just keep that in mind. If they are tier 4 or below, they will not drop a swift claw cub. Everything above, the higher the tier, the better the drop rate. We have direwolf pup, which is dropped from the tier 6 wolves, and then we have the direbear cub that is dropped from the direbear or the feral bear that is in open world, the tier 8 one. And from here, I'm going to show you guys the drop rates for these. So let me just open that up real quick. I'm on the Albion Online wiki. If you guys never checked it out, it's a really good place to learn about Albion Online, as well as look up a lot of the information that you need. But just to go down this list, we have the giant stag, which is the one that drops the adept fawn. It has a 0.48%, and then I'm not going to go too crazy through all this. You can take a screenshot or pause the video here, and you can see all the drop rates that you are wondering for the type of mounts that you are trying to get. There is one thing I'm going to address in here though, and that is the mist cougars. So the mist cougars have a 1.28% drop rate, and the saber-tooth tiger, which would be tier 5, has the same drop rate. When it talks about veteran mist cougar or elite mist cougar, it is talking about the one-sorted and double-sorted mist cougars that are in the Roads of Avalon. So if you've never seen those, they're the ones that have a little bit more health, and they have a lot more ticks of material on them when you kill them. So you can harvest more than 5. It's like 104 and then up to like 261, depending on, I believe that's for the tier 5. The tier 6, tier 7, tier 8 numbers are going to be different. But if you find these sorted mist cougars in the Roads of Avalon, they have a higher drop chance of a cub. So when it comes to tier 7 and then all the way to an elite mist cougar tier 8 has a 24.33% drop rate. And then another one to keep in mind is going to be the mammoth. The mammoth has a 0.01% drop rate to drop a mammoth calf, which is actually insane. Ancient mammoth and the old whites aspect are harder to find, but the ancient mammoth's not as hard to find, but the old white aspect is like almost like a myth. It's almost like non-existent. I've only heard of like 1 or 2 occurrences of people running into that, but 36% chance. And then feral bear has a 0.01% drop rate. Now I have one of those cubs with me. I bought it off the market. As with a lot of all of these mounts that I am showing you in these inventories, you could buy all of these off the market. So that is something to keep in mind. If you don't want to go out and farm them yourself, you can go to the market in your city and buy them. So here's the dire bear cub that has a 0.01% drop rate, which is actually insane. So here is another one to keep in mind. I know there are some mounts missing, and that's because there's other mounts in the game called faction mounts. So we are going to go over here, and I have organized these in a way that you can see the type of faction that they are connected to. So we have Martlock, Thetford, Limhurst, Bridgewatch, and Caerleon. And then I have the T5 mounts that are the same way. Now the difference with these mounts is they cannot be obtained open world. There's no animals that you can kill in the open world to unlock these. You have to go to your faction vendor in the city to get these unlocked. And just to show you guys real quick what that looks like in Fort Sterling, I'm just going to run over here I'm going to pop into Fort Sterling real quick, and then I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So let me just go here. We'll buy a journey, which is free because I have nothing on me, and in my islands here anyways. And we're going to open up the map. Right here we have faction enlistment. Now at this faction enlistment, you can buy the different types of mounts. And I'm actually going to walk over there for you guys. All right, we're here at the faction enlistment. We're going to click on Ironheart, and we're going to go to the faction item shop. If we scroll down, we have the Winter Bear Cub and the Elite Winter Bear Cub. So every single faction city is going to have a corresponding mount, T5 and T8, corresponding to the one that you can buy for that faction. You can only buy them here. Understood. And I'm going to go back to the island real quick and we'll keep talking about it. Okay, so we're back on the island. Now we're going to talk about the faction mounts. So again, I organized these in a way that you can tell which faction they are from by putting these crests here. We have all of the different types of elite mounts like the Borlet. We have the Baby Elite Terror Bird, the Elite Grey Wolf Pup, and then we have the corresponding mounts that they turn into. And then going down to the bottom, we have the Saddled Grey Wolf, the Moa Bird, the Wild Boar, the Swamp Salamander, we have the Bighorn Ram, and the Winter Bear. And these are the babies that correspond to that mount. The only way to buy these babies is going to be on the market in your city, if there's people that are listing them for sale, or if you have faction tokens, you can go to your faction enlistment officer and spend them in the faction item shop. If you don't know how to get faction tokens, I have another video on the YouTube channel showing you how to get started with faction warfare. I recommend checking that out if you do want to get involved with faction warfare. It's also really profitable for new players, so it's a good place to be if you're trying to make money, as well as if you are trying to saddle and work on some of these mounts and you want to get these certain faction mounts. That's a good place to start because you can buy them with the faction points and then raise them. And if you want to sell them or if you want to use them, you know, either or could work. All right, now the next thing that we're going to talk about is where to farm for some of these mounts. And I'm going to show you a couple places on the map. I'm not going to walk over there, but I'll show you the map locations that you can farm for some of these mounts. So if we open up the map and we go to Bridgewatch, a lot of these zones, like the tier 4, are going to have stags, so they have a skinning resource here. There's going to be tons of stags in here, as well as swift claws. They're only going to be tier 4 in this zone, though. We also have the T5 zones, which will have T5 swift claws and stags as well. So what a lot of people will do is they will go to these areas, group up the stags, and group up the... Well, they won't group up the T5 swift claws. They'll find T5 swift claws, and they'll group up stags, and they'll kill them, and hope to get baby drops from those. So that's one of the big ways that people will farm them, as well as if you go to the higher tier zones, you'll be able to find higher tier animals. This one is only up to tier 6 though, because we are in the Royal Continent. Another place is going to be Thetford, and specifically we're talking about the swamp dragons. So if we go to a T6 zone, since swamp dragon is a T6 skinnable animal in this game, so if you can find any type of swamp dragons in the open world and T6s are up, then if you can kill those, they have a chance to drop a swamp dragon pup. I know they are tier 7, but you can find them as tier 6. And then the other place to be able to farm is going to be the Roads of Avalon. Now, the Roads of Avalon are the portals that pop up on different squares or any of these zones. So if you go in any of these zones, you see a portal on the map, that's going to be the Roads of Avalon. If you find any zones that are tier 5 and up, or you find skinning zones inside of the Roads of Avalon, you can farm swift claws in there. You can find feral bears. You can find feral boars. You can get some of the T7 boar drops. You can try to get a dire bear cub. You can get tons of swift claw cubs in the roads. That's a big place that a lot of people farm them. If you can find a tier 5 and up Avalonian road and just run through the wilderness, there is tons of swift claws in there, or mist cougars, that you can farm to get cub drops. And a lot of people will cub drop farm that way by going through the Roads of Avalon. So the last thing I want to talk about is going to be the destiny board when it comes to these mounts. So if we follow this line down and then we go to the right, we're going to go all the way down to the animal breeder section. And this is the section where you get your levels to be able to breed the higher tier mounts. So you're going to need to get this leveled to be able to do anything that's up in the 7s and 8s. So you can just start by doing some baby fawns, or you could start doing any of the horses or oxen. It's up to you, but once you get there, it'll come pretty quick once you do a couple of these, and then you can start just doing tons of Swiftclaw cubs all the way up and leveling until you get all the way up here. Also, on top of that, the more that you do rare animal breeding, which are those types of animals, the higher this is going to get. Adept fawns or better will level this up, and as this goes up, you get specialization bonus to focus cost efficiency while raising rare mounts. And all that means is that when you use focus to nourish the mounts so that they have a better drop rate of more babies, you'll use less focus the higher this level gets. And the more efficient you get, that means the more kennels you can put down, the more animals you can raise, and the more focus efficiency you'll have. So you'll have more focus to use on different types of things in case you want to do any types of other crops or different activities using your focus. But other than that, that's going to be your basic overview of the drop rate as well as the different types of babies that turn into mounts that can be ridden. I just want to cover all this because I do get a lot of questions about this, and I just finally need to make a video on it just to get it all covered for you guys. If you do have any questions, please make sure to leave them in the comments. I know there are going to be some questions about different types of things when it comes to the mount stuff, but for the most part, a lot of my YouTube videos do cover a lot of the mount breeding, and in the future, I will do some more advanced videos on most profitable ones and how to find the most profitable way to make money doing mount breeding, as well as we're going to do some other advanced profit methods with island stuff. I'm going to teach you guys how to do the different market and all that stuff, but that's going to happen in the future. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next video, and I'll see all of you in Albion Online.